Welcome back to the Subtle Sport podcast. Always, this podcast is sponsored by ERG Builders, and they are the new main sponsor of the podcast this year. We're proud to have them on board. Now, ERG Builders are based in Northamptonshire and the Kettering area and aim to be the contractor of choice in the residential and commercial sector by approaching their work with honesty and integrity. You can get in contact with them at 077 363 374 821 or head to their website www.ergbuilders.co.uk. Once again, thank you to the people over there for their support. In terms of today's episode then, if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see we have a lot going on. We have a new podcast co-host. It's been agreed for a couple of months now, but because he's been away travelling, this is his debut on the podcast, so please, everyone, be nice to him. And it is Zach, otherwise known as the non-league expert. Zach, how are you today, mate?
Yeah, really good. Really looking forward to joining the podcast. Something that, well, obviously we spoke about ages ago, but finally glad to get started. And a brilliant first guest on the podcast.
I mean, perfect, mate. Do you just want to quickly give a little rundown of to where people can find you on socials and so forth?
Yeah, just on Twitter, if you just put in the non-league expert, I should be first to come up. I just cover most non-league, mainly like transfers and players and like analysis of players and all that. Content should be ramping up in the next few weeks. Got a few threads planned and all that.
Perfect, mate. And our next introduction, I think it's someone who doesn't need much of an introduction, to be honest. It's the entrepreneur and one of the many figures behind Maldon and Tiptree over the last few months, and that is Barrie Drewitt-Barlow. Barrie, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule today to join us, mate. And how are we?
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here. I can't wait to hear where Zach's been on his travels and what have you. He looks absolutely knackered.
I mean, he has been. Where you been? It's like Asia, where you were telling me, because this is actually my first time, like properly sitting down with Zach as well. So
over the last 4 months, I've been in Thailand, Bali, Australia, and New Zealand.
Wow.
So yeah, been fantastic, been good, but wonderful. Good to be back.
Good. So I'm looking forward to looking at all these stats things you've been putting together as well. Maybe you can help us put some kind of a team together then over the next few months.
You're doing a good job yourself there.
I mean, look, this is usually the part where I ask our guests to give a little rundown of their football career, but obviously, Barrie, you've not played football, so I'm going to do a little bit of a different aspect on it today. Then, Barrie, just want to give a little rundown as you as a person and you as an entrepreneur and being in and around Maldon and Tiptree.
So, you're absolutely right. No experience in football at all. I never liked football. It was just one of those things that used to be on in the house, and I'd be like, "Oh shit, I'm going to my room. I'm just gonna do emails or something while you're all watching the football." I just didn't like it at all. I didn't like it because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand. There's lots of things I don't understand. I didn't understand anything to do with football. I couldn't understand why so many men wanted to get together on a freezing cold day and stand there screaming at these officials who have given up their day to run up and down a field, chasing a ball and chasing after some guys chasing a ball. I had this thing in my head that it had to be some kind of a power trip because they just like to blow the whistle. And I guess that probably is the case with a few of them because there is some buggers out there that just like to blow that whistle and pull those little yellow pretty card things out of the back pocket all the time. Yeah, but I don't know. I just didn't understand it and I didn't get it. What I've come to understand is that there's a lot more to football than just kicking a ball around a pitch and a group of 16 guys on each side. It's the community experience and the community feel behind a football club. And that's what I really like about Maldon and Tiptree. It's the sense of community. Now, before we got here, there was kind of a divide between the club, the fan base and the local community. I've lived in this area for over 30 years and I'll be quite honest with you, I didn't even know the football club was here, and it's actually been on this site for, well, at least 15 years from what I can understand, maybe 20, I don't know, but it's been here for a long time. And before that, it was at another site. But my goodness, I didn't even know it was here. I used to go to the building right next door that shares the same entrance to the facility to take my kids to the wacky warehouse that was there, but I still didn't know that there was a football club to the right of it. So it was never really well publicised for me in our area, but it was here. They had a good core following, maybe 250 to 300 people, but then over, say, the last probably 8 years, that kind of went on a decline and went
Yeah.
down slightly, to the point that when we were here, we were getting under 100 people for some of the games. That was like November, December time. I mean, it was bloody freezing, and we'd come to these games in December and what have you, and January, and it was so cold outside, and there was like, I don't know, 40 people turning up through the gate. It was crazy. And when you compare it to like our last home game with one of our local rival teams, Haybridge, there were 1,600 people at that game. Over 1,600 people. We had documentary crews here. You know, we had Stacey Dooley here doing one of her documentary shows, and there was just an amazing feel on that Derby day. It was just incredible. But for us, it was like, you know, a massive turnaround from it being such a small number of the hardcore regulars coming to what it is now. Even, you know, I'm not expecting we're going to get 1,600 at every home match. I think that's probably not very likely. But you know, we're hoping to see 300, 400, 500, 600 people at some of these games coming up over the next few months, and I think that's achievable. I think there's a massive interest now. You know, the one thing that we're very good at is social media and
Definitely,
and the media full stop. So hopefully we get to encourage people to come more, and it's about, for us, engaging with the local community and trying to get them back into local grassroots football. You know, one of our biggest things while we've been here that we found harder than I thought it was going to be, was trying to convince players. See, I didn't get the thing with all this, you know, he's in this league and he's in that league and he's never going to come down to that league, you know. And I'm like, well, why? It's a football team, it's a football club. Why won't somebody who's in that league, 3 above us, come down and help us get out of this league? We've never been out of this league, apparently. We've always been in this league. So we want to get out of this league now. Our aim is to get out, push up the leagues, you know. So to do that, we kind of needed a different caliber of player to come in. And it's been difficult to convince some players to come down to this level because I don't know. I think they're doing themselves a disservice by, well, you know, I'm too good for that level, and you know, I shouldn't be playing in that league, and you know, no, it's just not right. But we've managed to find a core group of people in 2 or 3 leagues above us that we've been able to say, look, this is the project. This is what the plan is. We would love you to be part of our plan. We want to give the locals in Malden and the surrounding villages decent football.
Yeah.
You know, so why can't we do that? Why can't you? Come on. You know what? Don't worry about your pay. We're not asking you to take a pay decrease and come down to this level. You know, if you're happy staying where you are on that level of salary at the moment, happy days. We're happy with that. You know? Let's bring you down. Help us get out of this league and maybe up another one. Take us up to the league we're bringing you out of. That would be amazing. You know, so fingers crossed. That's the plan.
No, definitely. And I think it's very interesting because you say it there, and I've seen it all across like the social medias and interviews you and coaches have done. It's about getting people into that project, isn't it? And being able to pitch the right project. And like you say, even if it's not for them, you can accept that, can't you?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It isn't for everybody. And we've had a couple of knockbacks where people have kind of thought they were on board, and then on the very last minute, we've had 3 different people. I'm not going to mention any names because they're quite well-known people that had agreed. We were even doing a press conference. We had 3 different press conferences set up. They were all at the venue where we were holding the press conference, and then we get a call 5 minutes before the press conference is about to start saying, I can't do it, just can't do it. And we're like, oh, you know what? Okay. What I will say to that is it was a disappointment, but I think we found better people to fill that role
Yeah.
anyway. So, you know what? They say things happen for a reason, and, it's turned out, touch wood, so far, so good.
Yeah,
Maybe. We'll
and
see.
me and Zach were saying before we started recording, we were saying that the signings you've been making and the club have been making as a whole have been really impressive, haven't they, Zach?
Yeah, like quite a lot of the times when you see like new clubs with new wealthy owners for the level, they go out and just sign like these really really big names who are probably like 10 years like past it, not fit enough for the level, but you've gone and signed like sort of players, yeah, 2 3 leagues above them, but like a lot of young and hungry players who like you can see have brought into the vision and have the right character for the project, which
Yeah.
I think.
Hopefully, Zach, that's the case. Just picking up on the point you just made about these people from, might be a little bit past it. We have actually had a couple of those making contact with us. I tell you something, our manager's Kevin Horlock. He's really quite well known. He's
Yeah,
Yeah.
played for City. He was at West Ham. He's done lots of different things over the years. And most recently, he was the manager over at Needham, Needham Market, and he did a really good job there, I must say. And so when he came, one of the things that he said to me from the start was, look, we're going to have to put a good team together. There's no point in going for these people who have been proper professional, where they're in like, Manchester United and City and all of those kind of ones. He said, just for that exact reason, people bring them in and they're down with us now for a reason,
Yeah.
mainly because they're getting over injury or they've got other issues going on. And, you're kind of taking them on just for social media coverage. That's it, but you actually need to have people who can actually play on the field. They're the key. They're the key to getting out of this league, not people who are just going to be good for social media, which is a really good point. What we found, though, is, and what Kevin said was, since joining Malden and Tiptree, he's never had a season about to start where he's not struggled to find the right players. He said this is the first time he's had decent players coming to him, where he's not having to chase around all over the place on the last minute trying to fill a spot. He said, I've never seen anything like it. He said, there's just people joining me on all my social medias. They're messaging me. He said, I've never had this before. He said, even in my heyday, I wasn't getting the number of messages and calls that I'm getting right now to see if there's an open space for them to join the club. And I will say that for him, he's picked out some, because, everybody says, oh, Barry, you've made some great signings. Well, the club's made the signings. I'm just the one who's picking up the check, and I have to rely on the people around me, like in my other businesses, to do their job. That's the thing. So if I'm going to put somebody on a salary, I want them to be proactive in the role that they've got. So I am there to support 100%. I'm not even the owner of this club. It's my son that owns the club. I'm just the mouthpiece while his business gets off the ground.
Yeah.
And for me, this football club's a business, and everybody says you cannot make money from a football club at this level. My response to them is, then you're doing something completely wrong, because there are opportunities for you. You're just not seeing them and you're just not putting them in place. Since we took over here, we've gone from having 2 boards around the pitch to almost not having a space available now. Those people were local businesses that have paid hard-earned cash from their business to help promote it with the hundreds of people that are now coming here by buying a board, So our responsibility to them is to be as visually seen as possible. No problem, we can do that. But there are things that clubs at this level can actually do to raise money. The local community actually really want to help. Our local community has been incredible. Our bar's been packed. We took more money on our bar and selling food than they took in the whole of the previous year in one calendar month. So you can do it. You just need the right people around you, the support to be able to do it. The most important thing is the engagement with the local people and with the fan base, because once you piss them off and once you're not doing what you say you're going to do, then you're quickly fodder for them on social media, your social
100%. Yeah.
media fodder, and we can see that with other clubs at the moment. I see the trauma that the Dagenham fans are going through at the moment, and that for me, I'm so behind the Dagenham supporters because we've got a couple of their ex-Dagenham players, so I feel invested in their club as well, and I'm trying to do this testimonial thing for Elliot Justham over in July as well. So if anybody's interested, please come along to that. But I just think that for us as a club, we engage with the local community, and that's what I would suggest a lot more other clubs do. Bring in your local community, do these podcasts with these people trying to get their own name and that, because I want you guys to do really well. I want you to have 1 million views on your stuff, because then when I come on, the message that we're trying to get out is getting out to the right people. There's
Yeah.
no point in me doing this and it just sitting on your shelf for a month or
No.
5 months. I want you to do well in the same way I want our sponsors to do well. I want every one of them to do so well, because I want them back next year to take another board and do some sponsorship with the youth team.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, I do tend to ramble. So
No,
just
mate,
shut me off.
it's brilliant. I actually enjoy it because obviously, like sometimes you do get podcasts where people are a bit tentative, and it's understandable. But you just keep going on, mate. It's quality. I'm enjoying
Oh,
it, and I'm sure Zach is as well. I mean, just away from like the Malden side and the football side of it. Obviously, you are a businessman, and you've had wealthy, good success within so many successful businesses. The first place I first saw of you, because I'm only 22, the first place I saw of you was on Rich House Poor House. And
okay.
that's where me and my girlfriend, we love that show. We watch it constantly. Rich House Poor House, Rich Holiday, Poor Holiday, and it was the first place I really saw you. So I wanted to get into that like a little bit. Did that experience as such open your eyes to like the cost of living crisis and so forth we have going on in this country at the moment?
Yeah, 100%. I think the thing is, because remember, I come from that background. I grew up
Yeah.
in a council house. Parents always lived in a council house. So my sisters still live in council houses. So it's not something that I'm not used to seeing. I'm a social worker in the UK. I did my masters I did a degree in social work and a masters in social work. So I'm used to working with people who have living on the breadline and all that kind of stuff. What I will say is, because I've had success in a couple of businesses, I will also add that I've had failures in a lot of
Yeah.
businesses as well. That's the key thing. You've got to fail at some things to do well in others. You don't want to repeat your mistakes. But I'm not blind to what is out there. It's just that I guess I've lived personally in a bubble for a long time, and I don't know, you kind of, certainly my children, for example, they've never lived in a council house. So for them, it was an eye-opening experience. I've got twin boys who are 14 and, actually they're 15 now. And then I've got Valentina, who will be 5 this year, and Romeo, who is 2. Now, Romeo wasn't born when we shot that, when we shot Rich House Poor House, but the others were. So living with 3 kids, 2 teenagers and a young child, myself and Scott in a 2-bedroom council flat in the middle of Braintree was a complete eye-opener.
Yeah.
Trying to park a Rolls Royce up outside on a council estate is just not conducive to having any wheels the following morning.
No.
So I ended up leaving the Rolls Royce for Ocean, the girl who I did the swap with, and I ended up asking one of our housekeepers if I could borrow her car for a couple of days. So we ended up taking a Ford Fiesta over to Braintree and leaving that outside on the estate.
I mean, those moments where you are like you said, you've obviously had success and failure, which I think is part and parcel, isn't it, as a businessman? Yeah. I mean, you've also had to make some big sacrifices along the way. And in Rich House Poor House, I was, listening to you saying about, not spending as much time with the kids as you would have liked when you were obviously working so many hours in a day. How tough is that, especially as a father to your children?
I think, well, you become to rely on other people as well. And, you know, before my mum passed away, she was always there for the older children, which was amazing. It's always great to have your parents there. Then I became reliant on a nanny when she died. And so, you know, luckily I've got, again, really good people around me. You've got to have people that you can trust who can do the job that you're not doing when you're not there. And so it's difficult when you've got a young family. And I don't know, I guess you have to kind of weigh up. If I don't work the hours, then we don't live the lifestyle that we've got, you know,
Yeah.
and you've got to kind of weigh things up. What I realized was that it doesn't matter how much money you've got, you know, your kids love you regardless, and you've got to give them the time. That's the thing. So I think after Rich House, Poor House, it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that not just that I wasn't there, I was never there,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the key thing. I was doing meetings from 6 o'clock in the morning because my businesses are all over the world. They're in the US, they're in Canada, they're in Thailand. You know, I've got a massive office in Bangkok. Well, they're all over the place, and the time zone differences and all of that. So I'm constantly in meetings. I feel 24 hours a day. And so because of that, I really wasn't spending any time with the kids because I'd leave in the morning for the office. They'd still be in bed. By the time I got home at night, they'd been put to bed.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, Scott was always there because Scott finishes, he makes sure he finishes at 5:30 every night. He's there and with them and all that kind of stuff. But I just got out of it. I just put work first. I kept on going to work and all of that kind of stuff. And I really enjoy, because I'm so passionate about a project or what I'm doing, I don't feel like anybody can do as good a job as me. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, so I've had to reevaluate things, and I've had to think to myself, well, now's the time, you know, I won't tell you exactly how old I am, but I'm in my 50s and I'm thinking, shit, I've not got long left. You know, I need to make the most of this time right now. So I reevaluated the whole thing and I said, I've just got to make the time. You know, I think since buying Malden and Tiptree, though, I've kind of slipped back a little bit, you know, because I didn't again, nobody realizes what goes into running a club like this.
No.
They think, you know, this isn't a 9 to 5. By the time you get to speak to somebody, it could be 10 o'clock at night. And and I even say it to our coaches and our managers for the different teams. You know, you say you're going to do a 30-hour week, or you're going to do 10 hours if you're one of our part-timers. You've got another job during the day. But the reality is you don't do those 10 hours, you do 20 or 30 because you're sitting at home at 10 o'clock at night on your phone talking to a player who wants to move a club and come to you, or you're talking to somebody else. You know, the Ishman League people, you know, I feel like they just want to fine you all the time. You know, it's like, fine. It's like, bloody hell, what have we done now, you know? But there's always something going on that you've got to deal with. So this isn't a 9 to 5 job. And in my reality, I've got to start remembering that I've actually got a real job, the job that I'm supposed to be doing to pay the bills. You know, that's the key thing. So I don't know. I've had to reevaluate a lot again just recently and say, you know, this football lack is taking up a lot of time too.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not supposed to be so heavily involved, and other people are. And I am going to back off as soon as this new season starts. Then I'm leaving them all to it. I've given them all the tools they need, all the rest of it. It's up to them now to make out of it they can. They told me they needed X budget. They got the budget. They told me they needed to have the facility upgraded. We've upgraded the facility. The pitch needs to be resurfaced and all that shit. And of course, that's being done right now. So, you know, one of the things that we noticed when we first came in here was we have 235 players on our youth team.
Yeah.
Now, that's amazing, but we didn't have a pathway for those kids. It kind of finished when they got to, like, I don't know, say 16.
Yeah.
There was nothing else. So one of the things we wanted to do was set up an academy, and that's why we brought Liam Bailey in from Colchester. So Liam Bailey has been working with their youth team now at Colchester for about 16 years. So he's like so knowledgeable about what needs to be in place, all that kind of stuff. And he's such a nice, nice man. He's just a nice person. So Mitch was like, I remember Mitch Cowling, who's our sporting director. His dad's the actual owner of Colchester,
Yeah, yeah,
Robbie
yeah, yeah.
Cowling. So we were like, we want to set up this academy. Who do you think we can get? And he's like, well, the best person I know for this job is somebody called Liam Bailey. And Liam Bailey had been like temporary manager over at Malden a couple of times. The fans all knew him here. They all loved him. Again, he's a very nice character. So I said to Mitch, well, is there any way we can get him? And he's like, oh, I don't know. He's worked for my dad for like 16. I mean, he's been at the club for 16 years. He's worked for my dad since he's owned it for the last 10 years, So I'm like, well, you know what? Put it to him and let's see. And we never thought in a million years he was going to come and work for us full time. But
Yeah.
he did. He came. He gave up 16 years working for this place and came on and took it on. And the guy has not stopped. He's on like a 35-hour-a-week contract, working about 55 hours right now. But he's literally doing it as well. But then he's found coaches and he's put all this stuff in. He's just got us signed up to the, oh my God, what do you call that league? Thurlow None, something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
roughly what
Is
you're
that what
about.
it's
Yeah.
called?
Yeah, it's heard or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's called the Thurlow Nun or something like that. So he's lit. Oh, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that actually, because the league only told us yesterday that we'd been accepted into that league. But anyway, breaking news: we've just been accepted into the Thurlow Nun League yesterday. They announced. They called us and said, "Yep, you've been accepted at the board meeting." So we're in that one, and we've just joined for the B team of the under 18s. They accepted us this morning into another league, which was, oh shit, it's all A, B, C, D's to me. I think
Oh
it was
yeah.
EG something or other, but I have no idea. Fuck, I'm just useless. I'm dyslexic, so all of these ABCs just confuse the shit out of me.
No, I can imagine.
But anyway, so
There's so many things.
it's amazing. We just got accepted by these two leagues now for our under 18s, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. We've just in the process of setting up a new BTEC. We've found an educational provider who really wants to work with us. So we're in the process of setting that up. The BTEC probably won't start until September of next year, but enrolment will start from the summer of, we'll say this time next year. So hopefully that will be brilliant for the club as well, because it guarantees a pathway for some of those 235 students that are coming through our youth team
Yeah.
to actually say, right, look, when you get to 16, we've got this BTEC that you can go on between 16 and 19. You're going to get a qualification at the end of it. You might not go down the football route, but you might want to go down some other sporting area, because you know what? Even me with 8 kids, they're not all academic. Some of them are more sporty than they are academic. So it gives them an option, doesn't it? So that's our aim, to get that, that academy up and running, the BTEC centre up and running. That's another form of revenue coming into the club to make it and help it be sustainable. That's the key thing. That's what it's all about, getting the club up to a point where it's actually paying for itself.
No, 100%.
It's also giving back to a community as well. Like, all these young lads now have sort of something to do, which they might not have the opportunity to do if it wasn't for that.
And certainly locally as well, Zach.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. To do this, if they can't get into the local school, which is Plume, that does offer that kind of course. The difference between going to a stadium to do your BTEC and going to a school is such a massive difference. Kids are so eager to get out of school.
Yeah.
They don't want to go back and do a BTEC. They want to go where it's all professional and they can see they've got professional coaches, not some ancient dinosaur that's been, a coach for 30 years or 50 years or whatever, like some of these places are.
Yeah. And I did a BTEC course with Kettering Town, and it was honestly so good. And like you said, it's most kids don't want to go back into those experiences. And being in around.
How did you find it there? Was it a proper stadium and stuff?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think the capacity is about 3,000. So I say it's probably similar to the Malden ground in some ways.
Yeah.
But like being in that club environment every day, sorry, and then training twice a week, playing once a week. It was a really good environment. And the other co-host we have, who isn't here today, Bailey, was a part of that as well. And we've always just said
Nice.
we loved that. And like the coaches, they're more relatable than teachers, I'd say as
Yeah.
well. So it was just a great environment to be in.
Absolutely. Well, and they've been through that process themselves at
Yeah.
some point. Say, like Liam, for example, he was at Colchester from when he was 7 years old as a student in their academy, and then ended up playing, getting injured, ended up working as a coach, doing all that kind of stuff, doing his coaching badges. But he's never left Colchester. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, he's been in that professional environment for so long. You at Kettering, you must have felt the same thing. You were surrounded by people who just loved the game that you loved. You
100%.
don't want to
Yeah.
be going back to your high school and doing the same
No.
course there, because what the hell are they going to be able to show you? Or
No, exactly. And I think anyone in an area where football clubs are offering those BTECs, I'd advise anyone to go and do it, honestly, because it's just such a cool experience. And you also are competing football wise at relatively high levels as well, like coming up against very good players. We went to
Yeah.
places like Chorley. I had experiences because I was in the Kettering Academy before going to the scholarship program. I had experiences to go and play in like China and America and stuff. So just those
Oh,
opportunities just
nice.
open up nice. So I'd advise anyone to go and do that. Zach, have you got anything else to like bring to Barry about his life experiences like we spoke about before we move on a little bit?
But I was reading about sort of your personal life, and it's just like it isn't the traditional personal life, but does that sort of define you as a person? Because it's like very different and a very
Hmm.
like sort of your own, like very your own life and your own like sort of experiences.
Because I'm so out there and gobby. No, I get it. You see, the thing is, at home and like with my mates and stuff, my mates see me in a completely different way because I'm a little bit more relaxed when I'm at home or I'm at their homes and we're having a beer together or a bottle of vodka or whatever, or we're just having a meal. You're different with your close mates and things, aren't you? That's the
Yeah.
thing. You're not that person that people expect you to be when they see you on a TV show or something, And I think, I don't know, I've done lots of different shows from Below Deck, and I've done lots of documentaries. I've done loads of different things over the years, and I guess nobody likes a wallflower. If you're doing when I was doing like, I did a couple of episodes of The Only Way is Essex, and when I did
Mm,
that, you're told straight away, nobody likes a wallflower. If you want, if you want the camera on you, you've got to be an idiot. You've got
yeah.
to do things to make the camera be. Otherwise, the camera's going to go right past you to the knobhead who's standing next to you, taking the screen time. That's the key thing. So I guess 20 years ago when I started doing lots of different TV stuff, that was what you had to do to get the camera on you. Now I'm old, fat, and a little bit wealthier, so I don't need that kind of thing anymore. I can be a
Mm,
bit more myself. That's the thing. So, I guess it's not me that's trying to define myself as that gobby sod in front of the camera. I think I've just naturally become that because I feel like I'm probably a lot more confident in front of the camera than I was all those years ago. I think I'm more relaxed now. I don't need I don't need the airtime as much anymore. So when I do give the time to do something even like this, I'm just relaxed.
yeah.
I think I'm at that point in my life now where I just don't care what people think about me. I think I've got that thing in my head now that you don't pay my mortgage, you don't pay my gas bill. I haven't got a mortgage, by the way, but that's not the point. I feel like you don't put the food in my cupboard. So,
Yeah.
if you don't like me, I really couldn't give a flying monkeys. So, I say shut the door on your way out. But I'm more relaxed with it now, and I feel like I can just say what I like when I like without worrying that I've just upset 5 million people on a TV show and they're all going to be slagging me off on social media, because whether I upset them or not, there's going to be people, even watching this today from you guys, that feel the need to tell me what an idiot or a bad person I am. So I think my skin's got thick over the years, as long as along with my waistline. So who cares? So I guess to answer your question, Zach, does it define who I am? I don't even quite know who I am anymore. I think I've just kind of gone along with the process of being Barry, and so I'm happy with who I am. If people don't like me, then they don't like me.
Definitely, yeah.
That's great to hear, I'd say. And I mean, one thing about you as well, like we said, you are a father, and you were also one of Britain's first gay men to surrogate a child, and it was a huge moment, I can imagine, for you. But it's also a huge moment for people that wanted to surrogate a child in that time. Did you ever think about that? You know, when you were going through that process, did you ever think you were opening these pathways for other people to surrogate children?
No, it was a complete selfish act on mine and Tony's part. We were thinking about us because we wanted to be parents.
Yeah.
We'd been together at that point for about 11 or 12 years. And I think for us, the next natural progression in our relationship was to have a child. But of course, we were two men. And in those days, in the 90s, it was just impossible. You couldn't do it. Then remember, as a social worker, I was working in social services. And for me, I was able to take a child out of somebody's home on an assessment that they weren't fit to look after that child,
Yeah.
then make an assessment on somebody else and say, you know what, you can look after this child. So I could take a child from its natural parents and put it in another environment. And the government said I was qualified and good enough to do that. What the government was also saying was that as a gay man in a same-sex relationship, I wasn't good enough to be the parent of that child.
Yeah.
And to me, that was double standards. I didn't like that. You can't tell me in one breath I'm good enough to make an assessment on somebody else and remove a child, but then in the next breath tell me, but you couldn't have that child yourself or be able to parent yourself because you're in an unnatural relationship. And that's how it was at those times in the 90s. And even in the early 2000s, it was the same. So for me, that was a process that I was trying to deal with in my head. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm not going to allow this. So I went to Essex County Council with my partner, and we made an application through social services to foster or adopt. And we were like a hot potato because we were the very first same-sex couple to ever make an application to a council in the UK to adopt or foster. And it was here in Essex, where my home is, that we made that application. And at the time, it was the council leader at the time for social services was a guy called Michael Ledbetter. And he just didn't know what to do, and neither did his support workers in social services. But remember, I'd worked with these people, so I knew most of them anyway, and they knew me. I thought it was going to be an easy ride and a doddle. I thought, well, they know me. Goodness gracious. If, I'm one of their own, they should just sign me off without even going into much of a background check, because they've already done all of that to give me the job. But hell no, it just didn't work like that. We went to panel refused, and then in those days there was no recourse. You had to go with what the panel said, and you couldn't even make another application. At that point, feeling really rejected, I thought, well, what the hell are we going to do now? I want to be a parent. So for me, it was a case of looking for an alternative. My partner Tony was like, I don't know, maybe we've exhausted it. Is there anything we can really do? And I went, there's always something we can do. Leave it with me. I'm going to find something. And then I did. I flew to New York. Well, actually, we both flew to New York. Before we had kids, and we had a lot more money before we had kids. We used to take off all the time. So we were in New York a lot. And one of our friends, unbeknown to me, a group of our friends that we met, they brought a close friend of theirs with them to an event we were going to.
Yeah.
And they had this baby strapped to the front, and it was these two guys. And I'm like, how the hell have you adopted? What's going on? They're like, no. We used a surrogate. And I'm like, well, what's a surrogate? And then he told me the process about getting an egg donor, getting a surrogate, fertilizing the eggs from one woman and putting them in another woman and carrying a baby. I'm like, whoa, my mind's completely blown with all of this. And then before I knew it, 6 weeks later, I joined an agency in California and we were doing the exact same process. I'd banged over 50 grand to this agency. That could have been the biggest scam in the world. But oh
Yeah.
no, I sent them this money without checking them out. And yeah, and then the process kind of went from there, to be honest with you. Then before you knew it, we were the first same sex couple to have twins and be parents. And the babies were born in December of '99. It was twins, a boy and a girl, Aspen and Saffron. And when the birth certificates were being prepared, I thought, well, hang on a minute. This woman's name's going on their birth certificate, and only one of us could go on as the biological father. So we were like, no, this isn't right.
Yeah.
So I went to court in California and I petitioned the court to change the birth certificate. So when we won that case, it was a landmark case around the world, because you can do that now in England as well.
Yeah.
You can petition the courts and get two people of the same sex can go on the birth certificates here. But we were the first people to do that. So we were the test case, and we went to the Supreme Court in California. We said, look, these are our children. They're not biologically related to the woman who gave birth to them because we had an egg donor. So we need to be on the birth certificate as parent one, and because the judge was saying, well, okay, who wants to go down as the mother? And we're like, well, we're not the mother, we're both dads.
Yeah.
You know, I'm daddy and he's dad. I don't want you to put daddy and dad on the birth certificate, but let's make it so that we say parent one and parent two. You know, so rather than it being a mother and a father, some people don't have a mother. You know, even people who are single parents, you know, some of them don't have a father. So, you know, there needs to be an option for, you know, the evolving world, I guess.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people that shouts for all these trans rights and all of that kind of stuff, and men that have had a sex change that are in the sports and doing all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I don't like and I don't agree with, you know, so I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon now because this isn't the forum for it. But, you know, I can understand why people have a problem with a guy that's had a sex change going up against a woman in a sport and they're 10 times stronger because of past testosterone that was in there and all that kind of stuff. But again, it's not the right time to talk about that. But, you know, I don't want to come across like I'm some great person who's always fighting for gay rights or trans rights and all of that, because I'm completely the opposite. I don't do that. I don't want to shout for other people's rights. I want anybody who needs to have a voice to have a voice, you know, and if there's something in particular I disagree with or agree with, I'll make my point, but I want everybody to be as free as possible to say that they agree or don't agree with whatever's going on in the world. So I didn't start my family process to be the mouth or the poster boy for same-sex parenting or gay parenting or surrogacy or anything like that. It just naturally evolved.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you completely. Yeah.
So,
and I think it's quite like interesting to hear you say that it was just not like you say a selfish decision, but it was a decision for you and your family at the same time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a complete selfish decision. I wanted to have kids with my partner, and we found a way to do it.
Yeah.
The fact that it has now changed different laws in different countries, well, that's amazing. I'm so glad, because it might have opened up for other families to be able to do the same thing. I mean, I know it has, because I've spoken to people that it's helped, and people stop me or come to me all the time and say, "Oh my God, we've got these are our kids, and we've got our kids because you changed the law and you helped to do this." And I'm like, you know what? I'm so happy for you, but I didn't do it all myself. You know, the support groups behind it used me and said, "Look." You know, that I feel like we've kind of lived our life in a goldfish bowl for so long, but I put myself there, so I can't complain about it. That's the thing, you know.
No, I get that completely.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about football for like the final stretch of this podcast then. And Zach, I'll let you lead on it, mate, if you wanted to ask questions towards Barry football related.
Yeah, so like quite obviously, like you came into the club to build the community thing. Like, how far do you think you can sort of bring the community and the club together to make it sort of that one thing, that one like sort of big thing that everyone sort of sees in the community and wants to go to?
You know what? It's really difficult because you've got so many personalities in such a small area with a lot of people, and this is a very this is a growing population. Malden's added thousands of homes in just the last 5 years, and people selling their ex-council houses in London, where they've made a lot of money on those ex-council houses, are able to buy a house outright here in the countryside to retire. We've got a large older population, but we're also now getting a lot of younger people moving in because, well, they can see the benefits of what's going on just here, Malden. And I know it sounds like a complete lie or a complete joke, but this is the Essex Riviera. We're right on the water. It's beautiful countryside all around us. And we have got the most amazing facilities here. Do you know, literally on our doorstep, we've got so much natural beauty. There's always something to do. And I think people in and around the London boroughs can see the beauty in these parts of Essex, these villages and towns. So they're selling up they're now £1 million ex council homes and buying a 3 or 4 or £500,000 property here. It's much bigger than what they had in London. They've got a brilliant community feel and atmosphere, and now they've got a vibrant football club that they can become part of. I keep on hearing that a lot of people can't afford season tickets at the West Hams and the Arsenals and the the big clubs, because apparently they're so expensive. I don't know what they cost, but people tell me that we can't afford that anymore, and we've got 3 kids and we want them to have a season ticket and we can't afford it, or we can't get to the games because it's expensive to get there or it's expensive to park. So people are looking more at grassroots football because it's an affordable option to do as a family together. I've noticed as well since taking over, we've got a lot more women coming to these games. They're seeing it on social media. They're actually coming along. We've got husbands. I mean, we had a bit of a social gathering a couple of days ago. Sorry, about 2 weeks ago, actually, here at the club. And I got talking to a lot of the guys here, and a lot of them were saying to me, can't believe my daughter's actually coming because of the stuff they're seeing on social media. They want to come along. They've got these 14-year-old girls coming because they're seeing us plastered all over social media or Facebook or Instagram and the rest of it. And they're like, we want to go and see what's going on. They come, they see the atmosphere, they see the TV cameras and all that kind of stuff, and they want to be part of it. They want to be part of that new vibrant thing that's going on in their community. They want to talk about it at school on Monday morning. Well, we've got a couple of local teachers from the local schools who are supporters of the club, and they come along as well. And even they're telling us that come Monday morning after a home game, the kids are talking about, did you go to Malden Tip? Did you hear what happened at Malden? Have you seen what's going on at Malden Tip? It's just that local chit chat. Even our local community groups on Facebook and all of that, the positivity surrounding the club at the moment is just something that's not been seen for a long time. So it's bringing that, I don't know, it's bringing that kind of buzz back to Malden. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Even going into Morrison's or Sainsbury's, our local shops here, Scott says now he goes in and all these people used to stop and go, oh, saw you on Rich House, Poor House, or oh, you were the guy off Below Deck, weren't you? With that demanding family, or oh yeah, we saw you on Stacey Dealey or whatever. Now they're saying, oh, you're the owner of Malden and Tiptree. And it's a different crowd of people, not the people who are always glued to reality TV, but, the people who actually don't really watch reality TV. They're seeing us for who we are locally now, not just those gobby people off those TV shows. So it's nice. I love the community feel anyway. I'm all about community. I love being involved. Or, what people forget is 30 odd years ago when we moved into Essex, we came here with £20 in our pocket. We made our money in our local business on the high street in Malden. The thought of giving back to the people who helped us make our dream come true of being millionaires, it's time for us to give back to them. And this is a good way for us to start doing that. We can engage the local community, we can help put. One of the good things that we're really good at is networking with different companies and stuff. Over the last, well, we've been here since February, so over the last 3.5 months, we've raised up to about £500,000 in sponsorship deals alone. Well, that will carry us through a good couple of years.
Yeah.
To do that, our aim is to network with these businesses that have now come to us and who have engaged with us and put them together as well. Make them do business together. We're all buying our supplies from this one and that one and that one, but why not keep it local? Why am I buying? One of the things I said to one of my business people just this week was, why are we buying, or why is one of our suppliers of the stuff we're buying from one of our suppliers based in Edinburgh? Why? This business is based in Essex.
Yeah.
There are Essex companies that do the same thing. And to save 20 pence per item, we're going all the way to, well, I'm sorry, that's just not good enough. I think we as a company need to be thinking local. We need to be keeping our money local and putting our money back on the high street. I see other local businesses that we've tried to interact with, that we've asked for sponsorship, that are doing the same thing. We're like, why are you sponsoring a motocross? Why are you sponsoring sports cars in Kent?
Yeah.
You're a Essex-based company, but not just the fact that you're an Essex-based company. You're a bloody Tiptree company spending 30,000 a year on advertising to sponsor the racing down at Brands Hatch. Sponsor your local football club, mate, because we're the people who are local. We're your workers. I'm not going to mention these companies' names, by the way, but they know who they are. I'll make sure they see this podcast. I'll be sending a link to their business development people the minute this goes out. Trust me. But, if you're a local jam supplier or you're a local salt supplier with the name Malden or Tiptree in your brand, that has national brand awareness, by the way, you should be supporting your local venues, not saying anything.
No, I think it's really interesting to hear you say about supporting local and being that big community. And I think it's so crucial at non-league levels. And I'm sure Zach will agree with me. Being a community, it's more than just a football club, isn't it? It's a wider thing.
The reason I got into non-league football was because I sort of just fell out of love with like sort of the top level football, because it's just so far away from the community aspects. Like,
and expensive, Zach.
Yeah, and expensive. Like you go to a Premier League game, and like every game, you're just sat next to like someone you don't know, someone you probably won't talk to. Whereas in non-league, you like build those connections, and like it's like a family. Like you always talk to these people every week, and you like message them daily, check up on how they are. But like there's that proper connection.
There is. And I've seen that here as well. Even when we got down to the point where there was only, I don't know, say under 100 people coming, it was those core 100 people that were there on the day when Scott and I actually took over. And they were the ones that were, right, what do you need us to do? They were the ones who put on the fluorescent jackets during a match. And they were the ones that came in the rain or the shine or whatever. And they were the ones that were walking around making sure that the people who did come were safe, that the turnstiles were manned, that there was enough people around for us to meet our obligations under the league rules and the FA rules, to make sure that there was enough people to, what do you call those people who wear their orange jackets?
Volunteers?
Stewards. Is that what you call them? Stewards?
Yeah.
So we had all these people just giving us their time for not one penny. Every week they turn up, they're there, they're watching the game and they're encouraging the fans. And you know what? I don't know where we would be without those core people that were there. They've even honestly, I know it sounds so gay, but I well up so many times because they want to just give their time, and they've organised for this date in June where they're all going to come. And they're going to just clean up the stadium. I can't remember what they call it, but it's like a clean-up day or something.
Yeah.
They're going to scrub the They've made this whole list. They're going to scrub the stands. They're going to wash the windows. They're going to mow where our groundsmen haven't mowed before, and they're just going to pick up butt dimps and all of that kind of stuff. They're giving up their time because of their love for this local club.
Yeah.
Well, with all these hundreds of people moving into the local area now, our aim over the next few months is to try and engage with some of them. I feel like I'm going to go out on this big campaign, like I'm up for election for the local MP or something. I'm going to knock on people's door and say, hello, I'm Barry. I'm one of the new people. I'm one of your neighbours down the road. I don't need a bag of sugar or anything like that, but I would love you to come to one of our games. I would love you to come and get behind our boys and see what we're doing and trying to create here. Because these people that are moving out of London, they're leaving West Ham and those Arsenal clubs. And what's the one that just won that big game?
Tottenham.
Spurs.
Yeah.
That's, how do you say it? Tottenham Hotspurs.
Yeah, close enough.
Brilliant. Oh my God. We were rammed on that night. They had United and the Spursy people. And our bar here was, holy crap. It was, well, I've never seen, we had more people for that Spurs match than we've probably ever had in one of our home games. It was incredible. And those people drink like fish, so I'm hoping Spurs win a lot more over the next couple of years because we could do a few more nights like that, to be quite honest with you. I don't know. I think we need to have some collaboration with Spurs, maybe do a Spurs game down at Malt. Listen, if there's anybody from the Spurs club watching this, and we will make sure you get a link, so make sure you watch. But we need you to have a, what do you call those things? We need a pre-season game with Spurs first team to drag a load of people in. That would be super nice. But yeah, I just want to engage with the local people, the new people coming in out of London.
Yeah.
Are coming here. This seems to be the go-to place right now for those families moving out of those council houses in London. They're selling them for loads of money and they're buying a house outright here in the countryside. Come and get involved. There's loads of people from your old estates here. Come and meet up with your old mates or some people you probably don't even like, but come and meet people. It's crazy as well. You talk about how people are leaving these big professional clubs like you did, Zach, and going to more grassroots. It's people who were at competing massive teams before that are now members of the one club at grassroots level. So we've got people from West Ham, Tottenham Hotspurs, Arsenal, all those people, and they're fans from those clubs who probably didn't like each other when they were at those clubs. They're hugging each other when we score a goal here, so it works. They don't always have to be rivals. Get behind one of your local teams. And, I know I'm trying to plug Malden and Tiptree, but wherever you're watching this, there'll be a local team.
Yeah.
There'll be a Kettering or there'll be a whatever, a Whittam or there'll be a Manchester Rovers or something, I don't know, but wherever you're watching this, give them a go. Go and support your local grassroots football. You never know. Try it once. You're going to love it. You're going to love the atmosphere. You're going to love the people. You're going to love the really shit food that they serve. There's websites dedicated to the shit food that people serve at these places. You won't get any shit food at Malden and Tiptree because the girl we did the Rich House Poor House with, she's here as well. Yeah. So Ocean is actually here at the club. She's helping to cook some delights up on match days, along with Chef David from MasterChef. He's here. We've got Chef Wu, who's an international Chinese monster with Chinese food, so come and try our food for sure. But try your local clubs. There's loads of them up and down the country that really need the support.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one thing I really want
to... Where are you going, Zach?
St Albans, that's my local.
Okay. And what's that like in terms of numbers and stuff?
So last season we averaged 1,600.
Oh my God!
Like, when I first started going, it was 500. But over the last 10 years, it's gone up to 1,600. It's just fantastic.
Oh, please, God. Just 3 times a year, 1,600 would be amazing. But,
our last home game was 4,100.
No
and we got,
way! Oh,
and the best thing is, the funniest thing about it is we got relegated at the end of the season.
Oh, no. That's really shit. Yeah. Well, you know what though? At least the support was there. They all turned
Yeah.
out for them. That's
Yeah.
so good. Yeah. That. Oh my God! Could you imagine? You know what though? Saying that, I've got this really weird feeling that as more people can't afford to go to these bigger games, they're going to be looking for an alternative.
Yeah.
And local grassroots, round the corner football will be that alternative for them.
No, 100%. And I think one thing to kind of like build on that, when I was at Kettering, one thing they really pushed on being like, 'cause they have professional clubs around there like Northampton, they had Leicester just an hour away, also got Milton Keynes Dons not too far. They wanted to be
Mm.
the next best, besides the professional club. So if you get released
Yeah,
from a professional club, go to
you go
Kettering
into that.
compared to somewhere else because you can build it. And
Yeah,
I'm sure, as you'll know now, Barry, it's a good level to be at. It's
it
competitive and
is.
everything like that. Is that something you want to try and be with Malden because you've got so many, clubs in and around that area?
Yeah. And that was exactly the whole point of our academy.
Mm,
So our aim is to actually target those boys that are being released from Southend, from Chelmsford, from Ipswich, from Colchester. We do have inroads with most of those, well, all of those clubs, to be honest with
yeah,
you. We know the people we need to know at all of those clubs, and we're talking to them even now on who their release list is going to be. So, we are in the process of doing that. So, and it's a brilliant stepping stone for those boys, because imagine you've been at one of those academies for the last 5 or 10 years. Right up until Friday, you thought you were the bee's knees and that you were going to go into professional football. Come Monday morning, you've been called into the office and you're being told you're being released, and you never expected it.
no,
So imagine the mental health issue that person, that young 19 or maybe 20-year-old, is going to be feeling. They are going to be devastated because they've never accounted to do for anything else. They don't want to go and work in McDonald's. They don't want to go and work in the city. They don't want to be a banker.
no,
Most of them aren't at that stage in their mentality to be able to go and be a banker. Most of them are wankers, never mind bankers. But the point is, they need to be able to do something. So clubs like Kettering and Malden and Tiptree, they're best placed to then serve those boys, because they're going out of one professional environment into another semi-professional environment that can then give them the stepping stone to do something. They
yeah,
can showcase how good they are by attaining into our first team or whatever and being picked up by somebody else. And we've seen it before at our club. We've sent people off to other clubs. Samuel Kafour was a signing for Malden, who's just signed a contract with Colchester.
mm.
So it can be done.
No, definitely. And I think one thing I also wanted to ask you, Barry, about when you first went into Malden, because you've obviously said about the facilities you have now at the club. Was it very different when you first went there? And how important was it for you to get those facilities in place, like the youth academy, an upcoming women's team as well, potentially, all these sort of things in motion?
Yeah, it was a lot different. I mean, we're still undergoing a lot of changes right now, and there's a couple of changes that are going to take at least a couple of years to implement, with planning permissions and all of that kind of stuff. But the core part of what needed to be done has either been done or is currently, during the off season, being done. So that it will be done for the new season. I think it's difficult because, you know, I don't know. I guess when you fall out of love with something, perhaps your time is spent better somewhere else. And I get the feeling that perhaps that's what's happened here over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Resources were pulled back, funding was limited. Your football team can only be as good as the budget you've got in place to bring those people in. You've still got to pay people. People are not going to do things for nothing or
mm.
just for the love of it. But I don't know. It's definitely changed, and I think for the better. Certainly, our members would definitely say it's for the better. Our players would definitely say it's for the better. I think our players are going to be surprised again when they come back for pre-season training and games, because it will have changed tenfold from what they remember it being
Yeah.
like when they were there. Their dressing rooms are completely different now. We've taken on a full-time team of people, from finance directors to our own community liaison director, who is based here full time, engaging with the local community, local charities, all that kind of stuff. We've got a full time physio now. You know, we were scratching around on match days trying to find a physio. Some days we were literally hoping that the other team had a physio that we could tap into and pay half the day's rate for, because we didn't have anybody assigned, or we were reliant maybe on Colchester's physio coming
Yeah.
over. You know, so now we have our own full-time physio who's just dedicated to Malden and Tiptree. She is going to be looking after the first team, the under-18s, and our women's team. They never had a women's team here before. We've just appointed our manager this week. That announcement will be out, I think, by mid next week. We've started advertising for players for the women's team. We've got to present to the FA on June the 6th in the Essex FA in Chelmsford to argue what league position or where we want to be in the league. I
Yeah.
believe we've got to present to them who our manager is going to be and who our team potentially is going to be, because I guess in their eyes what they don't want is us forming a team, a brand new team with the caliber of players we're planning to bring in, putting us in the very bottom tier we can go in, only to be winning games at 13-0 and that, because it's pointless, you
No,
know.
100%.
So
Yeah.
they want to put us in the right league, not just start us off in the lowest one and then work our way up, because we're going to be too much of a challenge for a lot of those teams that are put together currently.
Yeah.
So we have to go and present with all the other clubs. It's not just us. All the other clubs get to present as well, to argue where they think they should be. And I'm told that clubs actually don't just go in and say, right, we think we should be in the Premiership and that's it. They go in and say, actually, we need to be in the lowest league possible and work our way up, because our team's at this level right now. So it's about being realistic of where you think your team is,
Yeah.
where your manager's dreams and expectations are for that season. And then between you and the league, they decide on where you should be, what tier and what have you.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I guess after June the 6th, we'll know where our women's team's going to be. But I'm hoping it's going to be, a relatively good league. We want to be playing the Chelmsfords and the Southend's and the hashtags women's teams. You know,
Yeah.
our women's team is going to be a little bit different from most teams at the moment, in that most teams women's team have to buy their own kit, or they have to find a sponsor for their kit. They have to pay subs. They have to pay all their own expenses. We're going to scrap all of that. We're going to take care of all of the expenses for
Yeah.
our women's team, and our women's team is going to be treated exactly like the men's team. There'll be no disparaging whatsoever. So all of our women will be brought on contracts. They'll be given an expense allowance. You'll be from this club to wherever. You'll get paid. We'll pay for all their kits. There'll be no subs where we expect them to pay for anything at all. So for us, the commitment to the women's game is as strong as we want it to be for the men's
Yeah.
team. And we'll give them the time on the stadium pitch. We're not just going to chuck them on the training grounds. We want them to play their games on a stadium pitch, just like the first men's team. And of course, you're not going to get the support like turning up through the gate to support them straight away. But give me time. Give me time. We will have at least a few hundred people here watching our ladies.
No,
Mark my words.
I think it'd be great for anyone who really does follow women's football or anything like that, but would really feel refreshed by what you have just said there. Because I don't know if you would have seen, Zach, you might have seen, like a couple of weeks ago, Blackburn's women's team folded. They were in the championship in the women's level, and I think they weren't getting paid. There were so many discrepancies going on there. So for you to say something like that, where you're going to be treating them the exact same as the men's team, being as a club, not just, as the squads, I think that's fantastic for you to say, mate.
Oh, thank you. Well, for us, it's about equality,
Yeah.
and it's not. And again, it's not about trying to bash that over the head with gay rights, all that shit. I'm not about that at all. But what I am about is equal rights for everybody.
Hmm.
I don't care what your sexuality is. I'm really not interested. I couldn't give a flying monkeys on it. I don't care what colour you are. I don't care. You can be black or white or green or purple. I don't give a flying monkeys at all. I really don't care. Do your job. Do your job. You're being paid to do it. That's all I'm bothered about. I don't need you to be my friend. I don't need you to be my best friend. I need you to respect me for who I am, because I will respect you until you do something that makes me not respect you. That's it,
Yeah.
you know. So for me, I want all of our teams, I want our under 18s to be exactly treated the same. When you were at Kettering, you know, you went in as a student, you were treated, you were shown what the expectations were
Hmm.
of your club, your code of conduct,
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. You had to be professional. The club expects you to wear the same outfit as your teammates, not turn up in a shitty old chavvy council house grey tracksuit. You know, you wear your club's badge with
Yeah.
pride, you know. Make sure you're wearing one of our baseball caps, not some hip persons from TikTok or wherever. You wear your club colours with pride, and that's what I want for our club. I want every area of our club to be treated the same. So
100%.
our
Yeah.
first team, yeah, the first team's kit is the kit.
Hmm.
That means our youth team have the exact same kit as our first team. Our women's team have the same kit with the same badge and the same expectations, the same code of conduct. Everything is the same. You know, we're writing up a policy for social media. We're giving our players media training because we want them to act in a certain way. We
Yeah.
don't want them going out there telling all of our fans to F off or whatever. We don't want them getting in the face of a fan because the fan said something on the spur of the moment. Okay, we're not saying we're going to accept abuse, because we're
Hmm.
absolutely not. But what we're going to say to them is, look, they're passionate about what you're doing. And at that one point, you messed up. They said something that they completely will regret saying in 10 minutes, and they don't mean it. And, you know, they're calling you that name for that second.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable, and we will address it with them 100%. We're not going to accept it, but we don't want you getting up in their face, threatening to punch them out, because the likelihood is, as an athlete who's been training, you're stronger than that person and you could cause them some damage.
Mm.
And we definitely don't want that. So we're giving them media training. What can you post on your social media? What's acceptable and what's not? We want you to do these podcasts. Don't be so aloof. You know, somebody requests for you to give them an hour of your time on a podcast, then bloody well go and do it. You know, everybody needs to be able to get hold of you. You don't be so aloof. You know,
Yeah.
you're not David Beckham. You're John Brown, who plays for Malden and Tiptree. Get out there and do your job. And part of your job is doing these podcasts, going to the local school, and when they're doing a PE session or a football session or something, and letting a couple of our footballers go around and spending half an hour with them, showing them some tactics.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's just, it doesn't cost you anything to do it. You know, invite a school in and let them have a day with you guys just on the pitch when you're doing your training anyway. Show them how you train, you know, just that kind of stuff for us is going to go a long way, I think.
No, definitely. And I think it, just quickly before I move on to Zach, it just goes back to that community aspect you keep trying to build, doesn't it, at Malden? Just quickly then, before we start to round off, Zach, have you got anything final that you want to bring towards Barry at all?
No, not really, but yeah, I
Come say
say,
that, Scott. Come say that. One second, I'm going to introduce you to Scott.
That's okay.
Scott's real job is building. So he's with his builders at the moment and contractors, and they're all doing out the changing rooms and stuff. So he looks a scruffy sod because he really is a scruffy sod.
I still look good, Simon. Hello, how you guys? You alright?
I'm
I'm
okay,
good,
mate.
you?
How are you?
Yeah, not so bad. Busy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Whilst Barry's sat in here talking to us, you're doing all the hard work.
That's how it's meant to be, isn't
This
it?
is hard. This is work. This is work.
Yeah, true.
Okay, you're taking up too much airtime. Sod off.
See you later, mate. Oh yeah, I mean, one more thing that I wanted to say, Barry, because obviously looking at the future with Molden, obviously, like you say, you are stepping back come the new season a little bit more. What are the overall aims for Molden? Because you see so many like new owners go in and say, we want to get to the Premier League, we want to do this, we want to do that. You have to also be realistic, I think, sometimes. What are those aims? Are they just to get to the National League levels where you see your Chelmsfords and your Braintrees, or is it to go a little bit higher?
Do you know, everybody wants to go as high as they can. That's the thing. You know, and you could ask different people at this club, where do they think we're going to be in 20 years' time? And they're all going to say the Premiership because they're all football crazy.
Yeah.
As a businessman, that's not the reality, unfortunately. I think for the club of this kind of size, where we're situated and all of that, you know what? I think the best we could ever do is to get international. But I have been proven wrong before. But for me right now, and I think for the club, it's about becoming sustainable.
Yeah.
And to do that, we do have to be very realistic. You know, we need our sponsors, we need our volunteers, we need the local community engaging, but we need to be realistic. And I think, you know what? We can at least go up a couple of leagues. Why not? You know what? That'd be nice. Couple of leagues. What's the league that Southend's in?
Southend National League.
National. And is Chelmsford in the same league? I think they
Chelmsford
are.
are one just below.
They're one below.
Yeah.
Okay, well, look, I'm going to be really bold and say this. I want to always beat Chelmsford, even though I love Spencer Gore, who owns Chelmsford. And I do know Spencer Gore. He's a very, very, very nice man. And I want them to do so well. But I want to beat them so bad.
Yeah.
I just want to beat them so bad because they pissed me off over the last couple of weeks because I feel like we're in competition for some of the same players at the moment. And everybody tells me that I'm going to hate this time of year every single year because we're all fighting for those 5 or 6 players that we all really want, and we're all trying to convince to come to our leagues, you know. And like we got Elliot Justham from Redbridge and Dagenham, and Southend wanted him so bad, and I know another club locally wanted him so bad, and we ended up with him. So no, and then. And then the same with Tom Eastman. You know,
Yeah.
I know that he'd had meetings with 2 very big local clubs, and he chose to come to us. And the same with another couple of players. But there was another player that we had meetings with who went to one of those clubs. That pissed me off a little bit. And it wasn't until we got the rejection of the no that it actually really pissed me off. And I thought, why does he not want to come to us? What's wrong with us? It was one of those gay moments when I actually clutched for my pearls and went, oh, no. He went somewhere else, you swine. But anyway, we're not going to dwell on that one. But let's say in terms of where we want to be, I want to be able to be in the league where Chelmsford are so that I can actually beat Chelmsford and win that league. And I'd love to do the playoffs with them because as a local derby, that would be incredible to be playing that decider of who goes up in the league between us and Chelmsford. Or it would be quite nice that we were going up anyway, but we were the last match for them. And then they could do something where they got enough points to come up with us, because I'd love Chelmsford to go up as well, to be honest with you, because they're our kind of other local team, and I really want to do well. I like Chelmsford. I want them to do super well. But so up the Clarets as well. Up the Jams, up the Clarets. But I would really like to win Southend as well. So whatever league they're in, I want to get in that league so we can beat them.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really good. And I think, like, the reason I asked it is because, like I said, there is so many people that just keep saying they just want to go to the Premier League and so forth. And being realistic, I think the word you use there, sustainable, that's the key thing, isn't it?
It is. What's the league that Redbridge and Dagenham are in?
National League.
Yeah.
Because they've just gone down, haven't they?
Yeah, they've just gone down, yeah.
Okay. I really want to play Redbridge and Dagenham. I really want to play that.
I'm sure you can set that up. I'm sure you can set that up as a friendly.
But, I mean, that would be amazing, actually. But tell me something. Is there a likelihood that they probably go up anyway? What did they come down from?
I mean, Zach
They
would
came
probably
down.
have a better idea than I would.
They came down from the National League into the National League South, which is
Oh, is that different then?
yeah, it's slightly different. So it's one league lower where it becomes regionalised. Yeah, it's interesting because obviously there's a lot of behind the scenes issues at Dagenham and have problem. Well, they don't even have a manager at the moment, but you would expect that once it's all sorted, they'd be up there looking like they'd get promoted back
Do you know,
into it.
I'm so tempted to put an offer in for Redbridge and Dagenham. I'm so tempted. I really think it's such an amazing football club.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
love the location. They've got a brilliant set of fans. They've got such a good team that, because they had a failed purchase just recently,
Yeah,
didn't they?
yeah,
With
yeah.
the guys, the YouTuber, I can never remember his name, but I think that kind of went a little bit pear-shaped, and I think the fans got a little bit disheartened. But I am so tempted to just give them a call and see if there's even a conversation to be had.
I mean, they are a massive football club. To be fair, like they've been in the football league and even at National League, they were a big point. And I think, like Zach said, because obviously Zach follows like the National League South a little bit more than me. I think they would definitely be up and around it with the likes of Chelmsford and so forth. But you'll be there soon, I can imagine.
Well, if we can keep on attracting the right players, our management team right now I'm really enjoying. They're a really good bunch of people. They're really giving a good vibe around the place.
Yeah.
And I think for our players to get them on board, because I think one of the things that you said in your message to me the other day was that you'd be interested to know what our sell is to the players,
Yeah.
to try and attract the players to come along. And that's a really good question, because the sell is, the project. It's trying to get this team that's never done anything. Well, you know what? Actually, I watched this show a couple of weeks ago. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this?" And I'm like, "No, it's about football. Why the hell am I going to watch that?" And it was a show called Wrexham, and everybody who likes football seems to have watched this show called Wrexham. Have you two seen it?
I
I've seen
haven't.
bits.
I've seen bits, yeah.
Oh my God, it was a really good watch,
Yeah.
actually. And I'm not quite sure what league they started in, but do you know that they've just done 3
Yeah.
back-to-back promotions? Holy crap! How did you do that?
I know.
How?
They were out of the Football League for, I think it was 15 years or something, wasn't it, Zach? Something like that?
Yeah, close to, yeah. Then, yeah, so they started in the National League when Ryan Reynolds took over and got, 3 promotions back to back.
3 promotions. How the hell did they do that? Well, then I watched that show. I think I'm up to speed with it now. But then our sporting director, Mitch, said to me, "Oh, there is another one. It's called Salford. You've got to watch that one."
Yeah.
Oh my God. Then I get into this rabbit hole of watching this one called Salford. That one was really good because it was from my old stomping ground in Manchester. And they were in these prefab, they were like tin huts for changing rooms.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And they had these ex-professional footballers. I don't know who they are, but apparently they were quite big names in football at one point or another. And they had bought it from whoever owned Salford, and they really turned it around. Then I read in the newspaper last week, bloody David Beckham just bought it, and now he's throwing a load of money into it as well. So people are interested in these grassroots football clubs, let me tell you.
Yeah. I mean, there is also one at the same level that Malden are in, but obviously one of the other regional leagues. It's called Real Bedford. I don't know if you've seen it, Barry, but they've got like Bitcoin owners from America and so forth. They've got multi-million-pound investment. So like you said, the interest is definitely there. I mean, me and Zach was saying, it's just constantly growing, like non-league, and the investment in it and the engagement is in it, isn't it, Zach?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's just brilliant for it because it's just getting more people interested.
It
And
is.
just so good for all the communities across the country to have that non-league.
Absolutely. Zach, did you see recently, I think it was like last week, the guy who had offered 6 billion for Manchester United has just gone back with another offer, and he's
Yeah.
he's offered them like 8 billion now.
Yeah.
And that was apparently what the Glazers wanted to close.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, this was a long time ago, but I remember when some idiot was buying Manchester United for £2 million. I think it was in the 80s. So I
Yeah.
met Tony in 87. So it was probably around 88, 89 or something. £2 million these people were buying it for.
I know, it's crazy.
His name was Michael Knighton or something like that. £2 million. Now they can sell it for 8 billion. Let me tell you, if you can do that with Manchester United, why can't you do it for grassroots then?
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
Yeah.
Why not?
100%. And the ambition
We're
to be
buying
there.
this club for the same price that somebody was almost buying Manchester United for. And that bugger couldn't. Oh, I wish in the 80s I could have afforded £2 million because I'd be worth 8 billion by now. Holy shit. It literally blows my mind. You know, it puts the 230 million we got on Bitcoin to shame when you think 8 billion.
Oh, 100%.
Holy fuck.
I mean, look, I think that's a great way to round off. I mean, Barry, it's been such a joy sitting down and talking with you, mate. It's been such a pleasure.
No, well, thank you for inviting me on. I've had a really good time, but